He's an introvert, interviewing strangers from the internet, knocking down the walls of his comfort zone, one conversation at a time. This is the Gary Cantrell Podcast.
The Gary Cantrell Podcast, May the 20th, 2020. Welcome back. Come on in. Sit down. Join me if you would. I'm so excited that you're here. And in moments, Kayla will be here to talk to us, tell us all about her journey, her story. I'm so excited to hear all about this. But before we get her on the line, let me tell you about the Patreon podcast producers. Caitlin, at Caitlin Elise, put 3 Y's in her name. Vanessa, at Vanessa Ray's Journey. Amanda, at Mutts_and_Miles. And Morgan, at DDPY Mama. You too can join this exclusive group by heading over to patreon.com/Gary Cantrell. And if you sign up, you're going to get this show 5 days early before everybody else. You might be saying, Gary, I'm all caught up. I can't wait any longer for the next show. Well, wait no longer, because today's Wednesday. On Friday, patrons are listening to the newest episode of the Gary Cantrell Podcast, and you get it 5 days early. All the Wednesday shows you get 5 days early. You're also going to get 25% discount at the Hard Work Always Wins merch shop, and so much more. Patreon.com/Gary Cantrell if you can help us out. We really would appreciate it. And with that being said, we're going to get Kayla on the line now. We recently got connected on the gram, and now she's here to do the podcast. So let's get right to it. Let's not waste any more time. I'm so excited to talk to her. Let's do this. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. It's Monday, but it's actually been a good day, all things considered. How about yourself?
Awesome. It's been a pretty good day here too.
I'm glad to hear it. What part of the country are you in?
Louisville, Kentucky.
Louisville, Kentucky. I don't think that I've been to that part of Kentucky. I've been to the part of Kentucky where it's right near Ohio, that area. So you're probably more south or west or something like that.
I'm going to go with something like that because I don't know for sure.
I don't have a map right in front of me, so if somebody had a gun to my head, I would not be able to guess it at all.
Me either.
Now, has that been home all your life, or have you been other places?
I lived in Indiana for a period of time when I was younger, but other than that, this has been home my whole life.
Now, Indiana, is that like where you were born? Was that like an earlier part of your life, or?
No, I was born here in Louisville, but then my mom got married to a pastor, and he had a church in Indiana, and that was around the age of like 6 or 7 until I was about 11 or 12,
Oh,
and then
okay.
I moved back here.
How did you, do you have a preference? I mean, obviously you're in Kentucky now, but do you have a preference? Did you like one or the other better?
I'm definitely Kentucky for sure.
Right on.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever been through like Indiana at all. Like, I don't think that that's ever a place I've been through, like even just driven through it. I don't think I've ever been there.
Really? It's
Yeah.
it's nice. There's a lot of like small towns. Like we lived in a really small town where everybody knew everybody. That's kind of how it is around here in like Kentucky and Indiana.
Right.
There's big cities, but it feels like everybody knows everybody.
And that can kind of be a double-edged sword too. I think for some people that it's like, it's kind of cool if you can be in that small town vibe, but then also if you're somebody that's kind of got a lot of different things going on and people might be up in your business, and I could see where that could be a problem for some people.
Yeah, especially when they're all up in your business.
Yeah, it happens. That's what I hear anyway. I don't know. I've never been in like a small town, but I've definitely heard about stuff like that for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a double-edged sword.
Yeah. So what was your childhood like growing up?
It was kind of rough.
Rough how?
I spent a lot of time, like my mom worked a lot and I spent a lot of time by myself. And so that was really rough for me.
Yeah.
Just being a kid in general is hard. And then you toss in being a pastor's daughter, which he was my stepdad, but I still had to play that role of pastor's daughter. And there is a big, you have to almost grow up too fast because you have to be the example for everybody else. Like, I couldn't paint my fingernails. It was just really that strict. I had to watch every move I made while still trying to be a kid. And that was not easy for me at all.
Right.
And teenage years were rough too, just for the same reasons. My mom working a lot, spending a lot of time with myself. I struggled in school. I actually dropped out and ended up getting my GED because I was so far behind. I actually dropped out with a 0.7 GPA, which is something I laugh about now, but that's always been something that's been kind of hard for me. I mean, I'm proud of who I am now because I turned all of that around for the better, but it was rough.
Well, and let's go back a little bit, because I think being having a step parent, just in general, I've been through the same thing, and it's always, I don't know that it's ever been smooth for anybody. I mean, I'm sure somebody that's listening, maybe they've been through it and like, oh, I had a stepdad or a stepmom and it was totally cool and nothing bad ever happened. But I err on the side of, I think most people, and I'm talking like probably 70-80% that have step parents in the equation, there's always been some sort of issue, just because, you have this person that's come into the life of your actual parent, your blood parent, and they're like, having to take care of you. And you could kind of understand, like, when you grow up, it's a little bit easier to understand. It's like, here's this person that, they hooked up with my mom, or they hooked up with my dad, or whatever it is, whatever side it is. And it's like, then they got me, like they came for the hookup, they fell in love, and then they got me too. And it's like, maybe they don't know how to be a parent. Maybe they don't want to be a parent. There's all these different variables that could happen. And so when you were telling me about, what you were just saying about having being the pastor's daughter and having a stepdad, I mean, that I can understand that wholeheartedly, because I had a stepdad as well. And I mean, we're cool. Everything's fine. I love him to death, but early on, especially as a kid, because, we're young, we want to raise hell and get a little crazy, and maybe not on purpose, maybe not to actually harm anybody, but just, we're just young. It's in our nature, and we're probably going to drive these people nuts. And, we probably drive our real mother or real fathers nuts as well, but they know how to handle it better.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And I look at it like that now as an adult. He never had any kids. He wasn't around a lot of kids. And then you bring me in, and I was a hot mess. So I can't imagine being an adult. I can't imagine being in that situation. When I was a kid,
right,
though, it was rough for me to
only child.
I do have a half brother. We have different dads.
Okay.
But most of our childhood was spent separately. The times that we were together were awful.
Yeah.
So, but it's just, I like to, as an adult, try to look at the side that you shared of trying to see he did the best that he could. He did what he could with what he knew. And I try to look at that now. And they actually ended up getting a divorce around when I was 11 or 12. And they actually just recently got remarried a couple years ago. And we made amends and all of that. So that was good. I'm still kind of in a rough spot with my mom, but I feel like a lot of people go through that when they're growing up. I'm not necessarily, I don't think, what she would have hoped for me to be, but I'm learning that I don't have to please everybody. I have to please myself and make myself happy at the end of the day, because that's what matters most.
No, that's true. I mean, and what would you say? You don't have to go into detail, obviously, but like, you guys just don't see eye to eye. Is that what the issue is?
Correct. And a lot of it is too that I haven't let go of a lot from my childhood, and that's on me.
Right.
I'm still trying to work through that, but I just, it's just tough, because like on one hand, you want this awesome relationship with your mom, and then on the other hand, it's like there comes a point where I have to do what's best for me, what's best for my family that I've created now, what's best for my mental health, what I can and can't handle. And it's a hard thing to try to balance and figure out, even as an adult.
Oh yeah. 100%. I mean, I'll share this with you. I've shared this before. So I'm not speaking too much out of turn, but I have had, my issues more or less have always been with my biological father. A lot of people don't know this. I've talked a little bit about it, but we've actually reconnected this year, and so far so good. Knock on wood, everything has been going smoothly. But what you said there before about hanging on to some stuff from when you were younger, I can identify with that a lot because there are stuff that he did that I don't agree with, and I've made it very clear to him the stuff that I don't agree with him with on those kind of things. But at the same time, a lot of it I have to put on me as well because, it's me hanging on to stuff from, years ago that I just can't let go. There's a piece of me that just can't let things go. So when you were just mentioning that, I'm like, oh my God, I feel you. Like, I feel you something strong on that because I know I've been there, maybe a different situation, but I can certainly understand or I might have an idea of some of the paths you've gone down with your mental thoughts on all that.
Yeah, and it's crazy even as you get older and wiser and all of that it just feels almost impossible sometimes to let go of because it has such a grasp on you. But I'm still trying to work through that and figure it out. And I'm glad that everything is so far so good with you all getting back in touch.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's just thing that and tell me if you're the same way. I have a theory about why I hang on to stuff, and I think it's because, I just think I have so many fond memories of the past. I also have memories of some of the not so good stuff, but I always I'm always looking back. Not that I'm not looking forward, but I'm looking back maybe even a little too much. And so as a result, I kind of, in my brain, I process these things, not necessarily as if they're current day things, but just like, oh man, I remember this when, I remember this, and I feel those feelings so strong still that it's just like, that's what keeps bringing this stuff back to the forefront. And I don't know how it is for you, but that kind of explains my end of it, if that makes sense.
That makes total sense. It's like you just took the words straight out of my mouth because I can still feel stuff from like years ago as if it just happened.
Yeah.
And there's such that emotional tie to it, I think is, like you said, what makes it so strong and so hard to let go of, because I can picture things vividly. I can see the colors on the wall of like memories that I have and smells. And it's just crazy how your brain can hold on to something like that so strongly.
Oh my God. There's gotta be something. There's maybe there's like a psychiatrist out there that can hear this and maybe they can tell us like what it's called, but there's something for people like me and you where we just, we remember these things so fondly, or we hang on to them so hard that we just remember every detail. Like you said, smells, we remember the feelings. Mm-hmm. There has to be like something that this is like called or something like that.
I'm sure that there is.
Yeah. Cause I just think about a lot of this stuff and, it's just, it's crazy. I mean, you could get me going for hours just talking about, just kind of where the brain goes and processing different memories and things like that. My God, we would be here for 5 or 6 hours easily.
Oh, well, I'm down. I already ate dinner, so let's go.
I actually had dinner as well earlier as well, so I came prepared. So no, but I get it though. I think about it and I'm like, there are times where I tell myself too, I'm like, it's all right to, focus more on kind of what's going on now and think more about, living in the now as much as you can. And not that we don't, because, we get up every day, we do our stuff, but sometimes maybe our brains are just kind of on autopilot and our minds are just, somewhere else.
Yes, absolutely. I try really hard to focus on being in the now, and it's actually something I'm really working on heavily right now, because I feel like a lot of the things that occurred in my childhood actually led to me struggling with my weight, because
Yeah.
I know that that's a lot of like what you talk about on your Instagram. I have always struggled with binging, and it's because when I was home by myself and I was scared and I was lonely, or if a traumatic event happened, the kitchen was always there.
Yeah.
The kitchen was there. The kitchen was my shoulder to cry on. It was my therapist. It was my parent. It was my friend. It was my everything. And that's where I found that instant comfort that I just craved for so long. And I still, even as a 29-year-old adult, have those tendencies of when I'm emotional or I'm focusing a little bit too heavily on the past, and it's so vivid for me that I resort right back to the kitchen. And I'm still, I'm at the best part of my journey right now, but I'm still working through that.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing too, like going back to how our minds work. It all has been it's all been a shift in my mindset. That's where it had to start for me. And it's still not, I haven't totally shifted my mindset yet. I'm still, like we've talked about, fighting with those past memories and fighting with my limiting beliefs and all of that. But it's required a shift in my mindset to even be successful in the weight loss journey and to even be successful in changing my relationship to food. And it's just crazy how it all ties together.
Yeah. I mean, the limiting beliefs are really something that I know for me have definitely held me down a lot, but I think in general for people, I mean, it's literally like it's like you hear in those old Italian movies about tying cement to your feet and dropping you at the bottom of the river. Like,
Yes.
that's what a limiting belief is like. I mean, it's like a block of concrete attached to your feet, pulling you under the water, and you cannot breathe, and it will pull you down and suck the life out of you until there is nothing left. And that is just, it's tough. I mean, it's really difficult. I mean, I battle with myself. I've talked about a lot of the stuff I'm going through now. And, it's something, it's a constant, battle on and off, on, off, on, off. It just grabs a hold of you and it'll pull you until you have to fight back at some point. But it's like, we think like, what do we do? We don't know how to fight back sometimes, right? It's very difficult.
Oh yeah. And one of the things that I like to talk about on my Instagram, because I like to share this kind of stuff because I want to be for someone what I needed, even if it's just for one person.
Yeah.
I just want to be what I needed back then. And even now, sometimes I'm speaking to myself, just that how impossible it feels sometimes to just counteract your limiting belief with a positive one, and just to continue to do that. And even when you don't believe it, you just believe it anyway. And I always say, one of the best things that you can do for yourself is believe in yourself, even when you don't believe in yourself, because that's the only thing that's gotten me through. It makes no sense, but it makes so much sense.
Oh yeah.
If that makes any sense, that's where the change happens, and that's where the growth happens, is when you continue to persevere, even though you cannot breathe, even though you feel like you're drowning, even though you feel like you cannot push forward anymore, to just keep pushing forward anyway. And I definitely have found growth and change in that, but it does not negate from the fact that it is the hardest thing to work through and overcome. Like you said, sometimes it just feels impossible.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about the food and finding comfort in the kitchen. I mean, there's nothing that's going to hug you and love you like a pint of ice cream for that 10 minutes until you start to feel that, that feeling, a little bit after, where you're just feeling like you're bloated and tired. I mean, it's the craziest thing because we can eat stuff that we think is really good and delicious and it feels good for 5 or 10 minutes. And then, man, we're feeling like taken aback by it. Like it's completely bringing us down. It's taking the life out of us.
Yeah. And then we keep doing it,
Yes.
Like I have even sometimes gotten so sick from eating so much that I've recorded myself saying like, this is all the reasons why you don't do this, because I literally feel like I'm going to puke right now, like trying to give myself something to look back on and remember why binging is not the answer. But yet sometimes I still resort back to those behaviors. Like even it's just that instant gratification feels like enough sometimes to be okay with the pain that comes afterwards, but it's still something that I do struggle with, but it's also really empowering to overcome it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Definitely. But one of the things you said that they're instant gratification. I mean, it's definitely a product of the society we live in now. Amazon delivers right away.
Yes.
You can get Chipotle. I had Chipotle delivered to the house today. So in our minds, we have this expectation of instant gratification, and we think in our minds that all this health stuff should be instant. It should be quick. It should be, all these things that we shouldn't have to wait this long to have all these things, but we do. It's a part of the process, and it's unbelievable kind of the world we're in now and the expectation, how it's set, and the way so many people think about it, because I know I've been there. I've thought about it like that, and I'm sure it's probably come across you, your mind a time or two as well, about wanting it now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And sometimes I really just got super serious with changing my mindset and like working out and eating better this past December. I have started and stopped more times than I can count.
Yeah.
Because right when it got a little bit too difficult, I was like, I can't do this anymore. It's taking way too long. It's not working. I must not be doing something right. Like, giving myself an excuse to be able to quit and go right back to sitting on the couch, stuffing my face with chips. But when we when we realize that it takes so much more than just waking up one day and suddenly all the weight's fallen off and we have a six pack and we're totally healed. You know what I mean? It's so much more than that when we're willing to work through that and push through even when we want to give up, like I was saying earlier, and believing in ourselves even when we don't believe in ourselves.
Yeah.
It's it makes it so much more worth it. It's so hard, but it's so worth it. It's a matter of believing in yourself enough to start. You just got to start and be willing to push through no matter how hard it gets, because then the rewards are far better than anything I could ever explain.
Yeah. I mean, you look at, pictures of yourself, the way you feel.
Yes.
All these things, when you put them together, it's like, you're like, how could I ever go back to where I was before? But it happens. I mean, look, sometimes, and I've gone through this, I'm going through this, where you've reached some amazing stuff and then stuff happens and you slide back a little bit. And these are all normal things to happen. It's okay to happen. You're not a failure because they happen. It's just a matter of getting back up and getting back in the fight, getting back in the game, however you want to call it.
Exactly. That's one of the biggest things is when I would fail or when I would eat really good and then have a binge moment, I would immediately feel like a failure and quit for that reason too, because you're a failure. You're not ever going to do this.
Right.
You're not ever going to make it through because you can't even go X amount of time without stuff in your face. But And even since December, when I've actually really put forth real effort into all of this, I have failed more times than I can count, even
Yeah.
in just a short amount of time. But the difference between now and then is that I was like, well, that was a screw up, and dust my knees off, and I'm going to get up and I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to get up and I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to get up and I'm going to do it again. Because life is going to throw stuff like that at us always. It's not going to be easy. There's not going to be times where we won't fail, because we will, because it's life. But it's just about being willing to get back up and get back in the ring, like you said.
100%. Now, when you were talking earlier about finding comfort in the kitchen, and you're younger and going through high school and all this stuff was very tough for you, I mean, how bad did it get for you in terms of the weight, in terms of your health? I mean, how far down did you truly go?
I went through a period. It was weird because like I've been overweight and I've been underweight. So I have easily been at least 40, 50 pounds overweight. And
Right.
I know that that's not a whole lot, but it was a lot for me.
Yeah.
And then there were periods where I would be underweight because I would turn to drugs, and the drugs made me really skinny.
Yeah.
And I was either binging or I wasn't eating at all. I was always on one extreme or the other. I was never just healthy. It was always, I was overweight because I was binging and searching for that instant gratification and trying to find some type of comfort, or I was not eating at all, doing drugs, trying to mask whatever I was feeling or going through at the time. So, I mean, it got rough, especially in my teenagers. My teenagers were really rough.
Now, which came first? I'm sorry. Which came first? Was it the binging or was it the drugs?
Binging.
Okay. So
binging. Yeah, because even as like a young kid, I can remember even like 7, 8, 9, being home by myself and eating like whole tubs of cookie dough,
yeah,
whole bags of chips, whole cartons of ice cream in like one sitting.
I can relate.
Like it was bad. And then that wasn't enough for me. I think in my teenage years, it didn't mask it enough or comfort me enough that I had to search for that numbness or that safety or that comfort somewhere else. And then I tried drugs one time, and that's where that led me.
Now I'm just going to ask a few questions. You can answer or we can stop wherever you want. It's totally fine. But I'm just curious because, like, how do you find out about, the world of drugs? Like, I could tell you just a very quick experience. I had a couple of buddies, they were like, they like their weed or whatever. And they would kind of joke with me, hey, let's hot box you in a car and we'll buy you a cheeseburger if you let us blow smoke in your face in a car, which sounds totally silly. But like, is this like a group of friends you're around? Is this a guy you're dating? Like, how do you kind of get that gateway into that world? And then the second question would be, if you want to answer that, is like, what kind of drugs were you getting into?
Well, it started with like the goofy, let's try weed,
Yeah.
And then we would giggle and for hours and eat everything in the kitchen, which, I was like in heaven, because if you find me in the kitchen, I'm in heaven, especially then.
Yeah.
But then that didn't seem to be enough. And then just suddenly falling into the wrong crowd. You meet one friend who has this one friend who has this kind of drug, and you're all hanging out. So let's just try it. And then you get a taste of that, and you get that feeling of, oh my God, I don't feel anything right now.
Yeah.
And then that just spirals into so much more. Like before you even realize it, you are suddenly like, oh my God, what have I done?
Yeah. Tell me if this comparison makes sense to you, because it kind of sounds like based off what you're saying. So like, getting into alcohol for me years ago was, my gateway into it was drinking beer. I started drinking beer in 2003 after I lost one of my grandparents. And for years and years and years, it was always beer and whatever, it's fine. And then it's like the first time you try like a hard shot of liquor or a glass of liquor, it's like, holy crap, this is giving me a feeling that I don't feel with the beer. So I'm trying now, I'm experimenting to see what level of like, to use your term, numbness, like what level of numbness can I feel I'm going from one extreme, or maybe beer's not an extreme, but like one area to a totally, extreme here where I'm now trying like the hard liquor. It's like, okay, well, if a 6-pack of beer makes me feel one way, goddamn, 3 shots, 4 shots, 5 shots of Jack Daniels, it's going to make me feel a different way. It's going to be a similar feeling, but to the extreme. Is that kind of does that comparison make sense to you?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of where my mind was at.
Yeah, and then suddenly you're like, oh my God, it's this all of a sudden like, oh my God, I don't feel anything at all. And that's like all that I've craved my whole life, is to just not feel sad and lonely and depressed and anxious and scared and
right.
all of these things that you feel even just as an average teenager. And then you tack on whatever else you go through, and you just so desperately want to get away from that however you possibly can. And then you get in with the wrong crowd at the wrong time, and before you know it, your whole life has completely changed. But
yeah,
it's still hard for me to talk about that part of my life. I'm not necessarily ashamed of it, because it's made me who I am today, and I'm very proud of who I've become despite all of the things that I've been through.
Yeah.
But it's still really hard because, like we talked about earlier, I hold on to that, and I have so much emotional tie to that. And
there's a part of you that can still feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a big part of me that's still sad, and I think will always be sad that I didn't take high school seriously, and I didn't get to walk across the stage and graduate with my friends, and that I wasn't pushed to work harder or take it more serious. I could skip school whenever I felt like it.
Yeah.
It wasn't made a priority, and that's really, I don't know why that's still such an emotional tie for me, but it is. But I also try to hold on to the fact that of all of the things that I've been through and all the things that I've done, where I am right now and who I am right now makes it 1,000% worth it.
Sure.
Especially if I can use it to help other people. And that's really what I hope to do.
No, I get that 100%. It's, what you shared here, and I appreciate that you do share it. It's very brave to share it, but I also think that it's going to help people, because there's probably at least one person that will hear this that has been through something similar, or maybe they're still going through something, right? And then they hear you talk about that, and they say, oh my God, like I can relate to this. And this girl, she's goals. Like, they can relate to that stuff. So I think, sharing it, bringing awareness to it in the right times can be helpful to people for sure.
Yeah, that's what I really hope to do. That's what I've always hoped to do, because I feel like we go through stuff for a purpose, even when it's hard and it's painful and it's sad and it's scary. There's a reason why we go through all of it. There has to be, even if it's just to help one person for the rest of my life, to just help one person, number one, not feel alone, and number two, realize that you can come down from the depths of your darkest place and rise up and become the absolute best version of yourself. Like, it's possible.
Yeah, and you got to learn how to lose so you can win. You got to learn how to love to lose, because you're going to lose 1,000,000 times so that you can win that one time and feel amazing.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, I mean, it's, you go through all these things and it builds you up. It makes you stronger. It may not seem like it when you're going through it, because you're like, good God, I can't catch a break and life sucks right now or whatever. And it's just it's a series of challenges. What I'm going through right now, it's a challenge. And then how I will come out on the other side of it, that will determine, what it's truly about. So, people can look at these things like it's life coming down on them, or they can look at it like it's a challenge and they got to fight back.
Yes, for sure. And there's always, even in the hardest times, there's always something positive that you can take from it.
Yeah.
And even sometimes when you're in the middle of it, it doesn't feel that way. But when you come out of it, you can always find something good that comes from every situation in your life. And that makes a huge difference too, when you start to shift your mindset to realize, like, there's always, life's not happening to you, it's happening for you. That's one of my favorite quotes, is
right.
Life is not happening to you, it's happening for you. There is a reason for everything. There is always good that comes out of everything. And I just like to believe and hold on to that.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. You can sit back and play the victim, or you can go on offense and run the fucking ball right down the field. You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly.
You can live life on defense, or you can live life on offense, and the choice is yours. At the end of the day, the choice is yours. Believe it or not, you make the call on that. It's not, well, if this happens, then this can happen. And if that happens, it's just like, you make the choice to do what you're going to do.
Yes, for sure. That is the best way to describe it.
So let's talk about that. So you go through the binging, then you go through the other side where you're not eating enough because, you're experimenting with the drug. So, at what point do you reach, at what point do you reach like this breaking point? Because I think we all kind of reach a moment, right? It's like, okay, we have a day, we have a realization, something happens, something gets triggered, and we're like, I'm not living like this no more. What is that for you?
That for me was, even though it felt like I had like all of these friends, and because it seems like when you get caught up in that crowd, it feels like you have a gazillion friends, but in reality, it should always be quality over quantity.
Yes.
Because they're actually, you could have 1,000 friends and none of them are actually genuine, true friends. And I think that when I found myself, I will never forget waking up one morning and realizing that even though I was able to numb out how I was feeling, I was still waking up in the morning completely alone.
Yeah.
I was still waking up lonely. I was still waking up sad. I was still waking up feeling all of the things magnified, might I add, because that just, when you wake up the next morning, not only is everything still there, but it's magnified. Just one morning being like, this cannot be all that there is to life. It just can't. And I know for some people, like, they have to get arrested or they have to, hit like a really, really massive rock bottom.
Yeah.
But for me, I woke up one day and was like, is this going to be my life for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
And that hit heavy for me. And so I chose to quit, and I quit, and it was really hard for me. And I went through really bad depression and anxiety and on and off medicine and going to therapy and all of that. And then that's what I struggled with for years, is going on and off of prescription medication to try to fix my anxiety and my depression, and nothing was working and the side effects were horrible. And then I got pregnant. This is over a period of years.
Yeah.
I got married, and then we struggled with fertility for several years. I had miscarriages. That was really hard for me. Then I finally got pregnant, And I was so happy, and my pregnancy was actually really great, and I felt good. I was happy with my pregnancy. Like, I wasn't miserable or like sick or had a bunch of morning sickness or anything like that.
Yeah.
But then the birth was traumatic, and it just picked everything right back up for me. And then I struggled with postpartum depression and anxiety in ways that I thought that I knew what it meant to have depression and anxiety until I experienced that.
Right.
And I know I'm going off on like a total tangent, but it's all of this led to where I am right now. And I had to hit that point of, is this going to be my life? And realizing that that's not what I wanted my life to be like, but that it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows after that. I still had to fight my demons and go through all of this stuff to get where I am right now.
Right. So let's zero in on that a little bit, because like when you say that, you know, you're going to get off the drugs, you don't want to live your life like this, like, you know, when you finally realize something like this, and I'm going to speak kind of in a generality, when you realize something like this, it doesn't just happen overnight. You don't just wake up tomorrow and say, all right, I'm starting this. I think a lot of people do that with quote unquote diets. You know, it's like, okay, December 31st, I'm eating 3 large pizzas by myself. January 1st, I'm eating a salad with no dressing. That's not how this works. Right. So, you know, I know you mentioned that you had a lot of difficulties, you know, kind of making that transition out of that world with the drugs and things like that. So like, about how long of a period are we talking to where you're on them and then you're clean? I mean, how long does that actually take?
I know I totally went off on a tangent on you. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, it wasn't just like I woke up on a Tuesday morning and was like, yeah, I don't want my life to be like this anymore. I'm just going to quit. I woke up a lot of mornings like that, but then still got high that day. Like months, I would wake up and be like, this is not supposed to be my life. What am I doing? But then the urge was stronger. The urge to numb everything at the time was stronger than I was to quit.
Right.
So it was months of me waking up and desiring so strongly to be clean and to be healthy and to actually live a happy life and to heal from all of the things that I needed to heal from. But it was months, almost a year, that it took me to actually do it, because it's like you said, you don't just wake up on a Tuesday morning and decide, okay, this is it. I mean, some people do that. Some people say that they do that, but for me, no, it was a period of months to almost at least a year before I was actually like, okay, this is it. I can't do it anymore. And it was actually my husband and I that made the decision together. This was before we were married or anything like that we made the decision together, like, no more. We can't do this anymore.
Right. And so he's in on that too. So he's a part of that world. He's kind of taking part in some things. And so together you guys are in this world and you're trying to come out of it.
Yes.
Okay.
And we came out of it together. And now we're like we're happy, and we have a home and a kid and a family and all of that. And to think back to who we were then. And I even remember the day that we told each other, like, no more, we don't want to do this anymore. And it was me who actually quit first. It took him a little bit longer, but
yeah,
we did it together.
No, I think that's great. I mean, it's anytime you can get your loved one involved, on a process with you, that's always going to be preferred. Now, there are going to be times where they're in a different place, and because your love is strong enough, you can make it through that and you can kind of adjust on the fly. But, you know, in general, in a perfect world, you hope to have your loved one on board with whatever's going on. And then if you guys can face that thing together, then, I mean, that's the perfect scenario.
Yeah, for sure. And I always hope that for other people. And sometimes that's not always the case, but I knew that at some point, if he had chosen not to, that I would have had to separate myself from him, because I had to separate myself from everybody that I hung out with. It was the only way that I could stay clean when I actually got clean, because you can't associate yourself with the people who you used to do that stuff with. You have to clean out your entire life, not just, from drugs, but like the people that you did the drugs with. And I knew at some point, if he hadn't have chosen to get clean, that I would have had to do him. And I think that that's part of what helped push him, because I told him, like, if you're going to keep doing it, I have to save myself here.
So mentally,
as much as it hurt.
Right. So mentally you were like, if he's not on board, like, I'm ready to move on from this situation, whether he's on board with me or not.
Yes.
Wow.
I'd finally gotten to that point, and you have to, because you have to get rid of all of the people and the, what's the word I'm looking for? The temptation and all of that.
And how long have you guys been together at this point, before you're going to be quitting this stuff?
We had been together for maybe about a year.
Okay.
Now we've been together at this point. Now we've been together for 10 years. We'll be actually married 6 years tomorrow.
Oh, cool. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks.
10 years. Yeah, that sounds very similar to my wife and I. We started dating in 2009, so that we're coming up on 11, and then we were married 2015, so that was 5 years. So yeah, we're not too far off from one another in that regard.
Yeah. It's pretty great to be in a long-term relationship. It's not easy by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, that's 10 years sure. Too. When you reach that level, that's like a totally different level. Like, people are like, oh yeah, I've been with my boyfriend and my girlfriend for a year. I'm like, cool. Call me back when you've been there with them for 7 or 8 years.
For real. Yeah.
Especially in this day and age. I mean, you've got so much out there, so many different things out there that can pull couples right apart without even, before you can blink. It's like, whoa, what the hell happened there?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's not easy, but it's pretty cool, because I didn't think when I was younger that I would ever be in like a long-term marriage, because that wasn't ever displayed to me by my parents. My mom was married and divorced and all of that. Not that there's anything wrong with that happens to people all of the time, but I just always thought that would be me, that I wouldn't necessarily ever find someone that I could share my life with long term. So
yeah, it's we think about it. Sometimes we don't always have the best thoughts for ourselves. We're like, oh, that I'll never be able to do this. I'll never be able to do that. And it's like, well, actually you can, believe it or not, you can.
Yeah. Yep. So true.
So when you guys are kind of getting through this over the course of the months and all that, at what point do you start looking at the health part of it in terms of like the working out, the eating and all that? Because I would imagine probably coming off some of this stuff, maybe early on, maybe you kind of, did you ever go back the other way where like now you're eating too much again? Was that a problem?
Oh, absolutely. I almost went straight back to that.
Yeah.
And then that's the part where I actually gained quite a bit of weight and started on my path of being the heaviest that I had ever been. And I know that I was just trying to find that feeling of comfort and all of that in something else other than drugs.
Yes.
So food always seems to be the go-to thing. If it's not going to be drugs, if I'm going to get off the drugs, well, then I've got to replace it with something, and it ended up being food for me, because that was already my biggest weakness, my biggest struggle.
Right.
And honestly, I've battled it from there on out, and I'm just now really actually starting to work at the core of that issue, like within the last couple of months. So that's been a several year, almost decade long battle of back and forth with trying to get healthy, trying to eat better, trying to work out, and then falling back into giving up on working out and just going back to eating way too much, and then trying to start a diet again, and then going back and forth, back and forth. But I feel the best and the strongest now than I have at any point.
Right.
So I feel hopeful that I'm on the road to like true recovery from all of it.
I would say that the food part of it, in my opinion, my personal opinion, is by far the hardest aspect of this whole entire thing. Like, you could tell me you need to get your ass to the gym, you need to work out for at least an hour, whatever. Okay, fine. Like, I have no problem. But when it comes to the food part of it, I mean, for me personally, from what I can see, and in I've been doing these interviews now for almost 3 years, and I can tell you that nearly every person that walks through that imaginary door and sits in that imaginary chair that you're sitting in right now across from me in this imaginary room that we can't see, that would make some incredible virtual reality shit. I would love it. But almost everybody that comes and sits down in this imaginary chair and talks on this podcast, it always begins and ends with the damn food. Like, that is the hardest component of this thing. And I would even argue, and I've had people that have been involved in food, in drugs, and they say, oh, the food is way worse than anything you can imagine.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
1,000%, because it's always right there. It's always accessible. It's always like, you don't have to find your drug dealer and hope that he has the stuff that you want. It's right there in your kitchen,
And you can have whatever you want.
Yes. And as much as you want, because you're an adult and you make your own choices.
True.
So you could just sit down and have a whole ass feast on your kitchen floor, which I've been there, done that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So 1,000%, it is the absolute hardest thing that I have battled in my entire life. And I've gone through some rough stuff, but food, hands down, will always be my biggest struggle.
It's like walking a tightrope, because on one end of it, if you're too loose with it, you'll have too much. It will happen because we're human. And if you're too strict with it, then the mental side of it kicks in, because you want some of this stuff, but then you've told yourself you're not allowed to have these things. And so as a result, you can either fuck with your mind, something fierce, and deprive your body of things that your mind is telling you that you want and or need. And then on the other side of it, you can be too loose, too lax, whatever, and you can have too much. And then you're still going to have to deal with the mental side of it, because the mental side is going to be like, God, I feel so bloated. I feel terrible. What have you done to me, you fat piece of shit? All these things that we tell ourselves 100 times over. So it's like walking a tightrope.
1,000%. And I've had to, one of the things that I've worked really hard on is changing my relationship with food and changing my mindset around food. And because, a lot of times when people are on like a weight loss journey, they go for like counting calories or macros or whatever the case may be. And I can't do any of that. I can't, it in my mind, I'm restricting myself. And when I restrict myself, it works for a while, but then those binging tendencies start to rear back up, because I feel this sense of scarcity, like I can't have. And if I continuously tell myself what I can't have, then that's what I want even more.
Oh yeah.
So I'm trying to learn to be like, here is this whole kitchen. I can have any and everything that I want out of it, but I'm going to be mindful and I'm going to eat until I'm satisfied, and trying to tell myself like that way, I will stop when I'm full. I'm in total control. Like realizing that I can have whatever I want, but I'm in control here, and I stop when I'm satisfied, and just trying to retrain my brain. Like, this doesn't mean that you can't have the things that you love. It's just all about a matter of rearing it in a little bit, you know?
Oh yeah.
Still trying to figure all that out, but that seems to be working so far. So,
well, believe it or not, this is a process that I think we're going to deal with the rest of our lives. Now, at certain points of our lives, it's going to be a little bit easier, and at some points of our lives, it's going to be a little bit harder. And I think the sooner that people realize that this is not a switch in your house that you just turn off when it's time, and that this is something that stays on, it just kind of, it's more present or less present depending on where your mind is at. I think the sooner the better that people realize that, there are people that can, and it sounds cute to say on Instagram, it sounds really cool in a caption or put on a meme that, I got all my shit under control and I got this and that, but it's not a switch that you can just turn off. It's not a switch that turns off over time. I mean, it does not turn off. It can disappear for a little bit, but it's never truly all the way off, because something in your life at some point is going to trigger your mind into something. And at one point you will have one bad day and you will, eat whatever the hell it is. And tomorrow you may be fine, but it's going to happen. There's no perfection in any of this.
Right. I mean, that's just life. And I had to, like you said, I had to get that out of my mind, and I had to stop having this idea of an end goal. Like my end goal weight or my goal weight or my this or my that, because then you focus so heavily on that end goal or that goal weight, when in reality, there's never an end goal. It's a forever thing. You will forever be learning how to navigate this and work through it and overcome certain things. And life's going to throw stuff at you where you're going to, like you said, have a day you eat like total shit, and then you might be okay the next day, but it's going to happen. And it's a forever process. Yeah, you might have a goal weight and you reach it, you maintain, that's great, but it's never truly over. It's a lifelong thing. My
neck is getting sore because I'm just nodding along here. Just, you're dropping all this fire, and my neck is just like, wow, we're in a place right now. What can I say? But it's so right, because look, I mean, I see people all the time online. I see this every day. 3 more pounds till I hit my goal weight, or 3 more pounds till I hit this, 3 more pounds, 5 more pounds till I hit that. Look, I get it. You're on a weight loss journey. So in nature, you're going to watch the numbers. But the thing I'm trying to say is, don't make that the sole piece of it, and don't make that the end all be all to all of it. It is a result of your actions and your decisions. That is what these numbers come from. It is not just, well, this is my goal, and I got my little Insta story of my little calendar, and I got my -5 and my +2, and then I got to write this paragraph to explain why I went up 2 pounds, because I've put all my stock in my goal weight is this basket, and I got to lose this by this time basket. And so now I have to write these paragraphs on Instagram explaining why I went up 2 pounds to justify to the people who, in reality, a lot of them aren't paying attention. But in the other reality, it's like you're trying to justify it to yourself. And when you just take a deep breath, I mean, let's just stop right here. Let's just stop. Silence. You take that deep breath and you realize that, like you said, there's no end goal, end game. We're just living our lives. We're trying to make good choices. We're trying to have good actions, but some days are going to be better than others. And when we just realize all that, and we just take the numbers right out of it, we watch the numbers, we follow the numbers. Sure, it's fine, but we don't live and die on the numbers, because when we do, it results in these paragraphs upon paragraphs online trying to explain to people why your scale
Yes.
went up that you had absolutely no control over. I don't get it. I ate perfect last week. Well, you probably didn't take a shit before you got on the scale. It's fine. I mean, I
Right.
get
And
it.
I
Ugh.
1,000% used to be that person. Like, oh my God, I've lost 5 pounds. Go me. And then the next day I've gained 2. And I'm like, but wait a minute. I ate really good yesterday. So what is that about? And then I was defining my success by a freaking number on a machine. Like, you can't define your progress or your success or how much you've changed or the growth that you've had from being on your journey or all of these amazing things that people miss out on because they're so focused and honed in on a number. And
Yes.
I don't know the last time that I've stepped on a scale. We still have one. I do occasionally, but it's the scale is like Satan's child to me because it just ruined everything for me. And if I was up 1 pound because it was getting ready to be that time of the month, well, you bet your ass I was beating myself up for it, even though I had done really good the past couple of days. It's just life, or it's water weight, or like you said, you didn't take a shit before you stepped on the scale. Like, I wish people wouldn't define themselves so heavily on the number because you miss so much of all of the amazing things that come from your journey when you only define your success on how much you weigh.
It's truly unbelievable to me. I mean, I can give you basically the explanation or kind of the punchline to, my story, my aspect of it, because I'll tell you exactly what it was. My goal, anybody could look back and see that I was talking about, I can't wait till I hit 100, right? Like that's the number. Oh my God, when I hit 100 pounds, I'm going to feel so fulfilled. I'm going to feel amazing, larger than life. It's going to be spectacular. Yeah. You want to know what happened when I hit that 100?
What?
I'll tell you what happened. The very next week, I was up like 3 or 4 pounds, and it just rocked me to my core. And this was February of 2018. And I talked about this on one podcast before, but we're into it right now, so it makes perfect sense. I never truly recovered from that week. Never. Over the next 2 years, I gained 30 pounds over that next 2 years because I never recovered from that. I had the numbers in my mind. I was tracking it. I mean, if we knew each other back then, you would have seen it every week on the scale, the little scale post. Hey guys, look at me. Down 5, down 3, down 6, whatever. Oh, I was up 1. Well, I did this, 2 paragraphs. And then next week, hey, I'm down 5. Yay. And I never recovered because I hit the number. I went on a victory lap. My mind was just, out of this world, and I never recovered from that. And it did damage. This is 2 years ago now that has still not been fully repaired, that I am now trying to pick up the pieces. It's like a puzzle that somebody came and just kicked right through the middle, 1,000-piece puzzle. And now I'm putting the pieces back together from zero again. Even though it's not fully zero because, I gained back 30. I didn't gain back the full 100 plus, but still, it's the whole point of it.
Yeah.
It's when you put it all in the numbers, these kind of things can happen. Now, is everybody going to go through the exact same thing I did? No, they will not, because we're all different and our stories are different and our circumstances are different. But I think it's important to share stuff like that because for the people that are putting it all in the numbers, this is the kind of thing that can potentially happen.
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take it to like a real place there, but I just, I had to get that out.
No, I love when people are willing to share their vulnerable truth, because just like you said, that there's somebody who might listen to me talk right now, and I'm sure you've shared this before, but there's somebody that's going to listen to you and get so much from that.
Yeah. I think it's something that needs to be said. I almost think I need to go back and do a solo pod or something to share it again and again, like just share it like crazy, maybe do a video for it. I probably will. By the time this is out in May sometime or whenever it is, I'll definitely have that out. But yeah, it needs to be said, because there's just so many people out there, and it kind of upsets me, not in the, oh God, this is annoying, but I just truly feel bad for people, because I know the feelings and the kind of posts that are ultimately going to come next. And then you see those exact posts. It's just like, you almost just like you called it. You could see the forest through the trees. You could see it coming from a mile away. Here's that 3 paragraph. This is why I need to restart. I'm starting over, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's like, you can see it coming, you know, it's coming, and then it happens. And yeah, so I feel bad. I do feel bad. I see it from people and I get upset, but not in the annoyed way. It's just more in the, I feel really bad for this person and I want to reach out to them, but then you don't, because you're like, well, they probably hear it from other people. How many times have we had the family that come along and they want to help, but they read some Facebook article about drinking vinegar water at 3 a.m. that makes you drop 20 pounds. And it's like, they're trying to help you, but they're giving you all the wrong advice. And so it's like, you don't want to be another person adding onto this person's mental instability. And so sometimes you just say nothing, or if somebody asks me, then I'll tell them my opinion. But yeah, it's tough.
Now my neck hurts from shaking my head, yes, because you're speaking so much truth.
We're gonna have to go to our local doctors and have our necks checked out.
Yeah, because it makes me really sad too, because I know what it's like to be in that back and forth battle with yourself. Like, oh my God, you're doing really good. Oh my God, you just screwed that up. Oh my God, it's just back and forth, back and forth. Oh, yeah. You've lost weight. Oh, now you gained it. And you just go in this constant battle with yourself. And it's painful and it's miserable and it makes me sad. But like you said, you don't know when you should or you shouldn't reach out, because you don't want to be the extra added voice in their ear, because you don't know who all's saying what.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm trying to share now, is I've tried to allow myself to have fun with this, just to like actually have fun when I work out. Sometimes half of my workouts consist of me like dancing or just allowing myself to just have fun and not be so serious. And that has really changed the game for me too, because for so long it was like this, like I was at war almost, and it was serious, and I was battling with myself back and forth, and it was not fun, and it was miserable, and it was hard work, and I didn't enjoy it. And now I actually look forward to working out, because I allow myself to have fun. I allow myself to breathe. I give myself grace on days when I don't do so good. And it's not always like that, because some days are harder than others, and that's just life. But for the most part, that has really changed the game for me, is just letting myself have fun with it. Like, why do we have to be so serious and so hard on ourselves?
No, I totally get it. And I know for the last probably 10 minutes or so, we got to like a real serious place. So let's bring some fun into the conversation a little bit. Not that I haven't enjoyed this, because I really have. And you've been incredibly gracious with your time. I really appreciate it. You wouldn't believe it. We've gone over an hour already without breaking a sweat.
Oh, have we?
Yes, we have.
Oh, wow.
So tell me.
That flew by.
Yeah, no, it really did. And that's I usually do an hour. Sometimes they go a little bit over, but it just tells you the kind of conversation. It's like, if it's flying over an hour and we don't even realize, that's damn good conversation. And I'll take that any day I can get it.
Yeah.
But tell me about, I know yoga is a big part of your life. And so tell me about how you got into the yoga and how you discovered it, how you ultimately decided it was a part that you needed to have in your life.
I actually started practicing several years ago, and I saw a bunch of stuff online about how yoga is like supposed to be healing, and it's supposed to be good for anxiety, and it's supposed to help you with depression and all of this stuff. And so I tried it once and I was like, okay, no, that did not heal me at all. That was really hard. What are people talking about?
Right.
So I didn't do it for a while, and then I started again. And when I really allowed myself to actually start a practice and actually really dive deep into what yoga actually is, because it's so much more than like standing on your head or all of these fancy poses. When I really got down into the core of what it is, which is working on yourself internally and moving your body and moving through the emotions and the experiences and all of the things that you've been through, and learning to breathe through those, and all of the things that you learn in yoga, I gave it the chance, and it ended up saving my life. You know, there were a lot of times where I just didn't know if I could continue on with life. It just got to be too much for me sometimes. And my mat became my safe place. I didn't just long for the kitchen. Don't get me wrong. I still was in the kitchen, but then there was this other place where I found that peace and that calm, and I don't know how to explain it. It's just kind of something that you have to experience for yourself.
Yep.
And over time, the desire and my love for yoga just grew. And when I very first started my practice, I actually wanted to be a yoga teacher. And I had someone who was really close to me that I shared that with, and they were like, what kind of a career is that? You can't be a yoga teacher and expect that you're going to be able to like make ends meet, you know, just really knocking it down. And at that point in my life, it shot it down immediately. I was like, okay, never mind. I won't do that then. But just last month and a half ago, I finished my yoga teacher training because I finally did it for me. And I don't know, all around it's just saved my life, and it's something else that I want to try to incorporate into what I do with my life as far as trying to help people and help people on their healing journey and help people on their weight loss journey, and just all of these things combined into one. I'm watching my dream life unfold in front of me right now, and sometimes it's still kind of crazy because I think about who I was back then, and I never would have believed that something like this was possible because I was so easily swayed by other people's opinions, and
oh yeah,
I was in such a dark place. I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, but it's there if you just keep fighting to look for it.
And look at you now.
Look at me now. I mean, I'm not all the way there by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm closer than I ever thought that I would be.
Yeah.
And that's promising to me.
No, I think that's great. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up before we kind of wrap things up, because I know that this podcast, like I said, it's going to be out in May sometime. And I would, in a perfect world, all this madness that's going on right now, in a perfect world, it would be over with. Everybody would be healthy. Everybody would be in a good place. But I think that is ultimately the real king of wishful thinking. There's a great song, King of Wishful Thinking. I love that song.
Yeah.
But, I think that even by the time this podcast comes out, this is still going to be a reality in this world. And I just wanted to kind of ask and see like how you are doing with all of this going on. How is it affecting you, good or bad or indifferently? Like, what is some of the stuff that you're experiencing right now as it relates to the virus?
For the most part, I'm doing okay because I've always been like a stay-at-home mom, and I'm also a caregiver to a 21-year-old with special needs, but that's basically been done from home. So the being stuck at home thing isn't super out of the norm for me,
Right.
but it's starting to get to a point where I'm really having to dig deep on some of the things that I haven't fully worked through. And I'm still finding that the binging tendencies are a little bit harder to handle right now. It just, this being stuck at home, like so stuck at home that you can't leave and go do anything to pass time or anything like that is challenging, because I think it's causing me to still have to really have to sit with my shit, is what I like to call it.
Yes.
Because there's nothing else to do. So that is hard. It's really hard, but I'm holding on to the good parts of it that, years down the line, I'm going to look back on this and be so grateful that I got all of this extra time with my son. He's 3.5. And years down the line, he's not going to want anything to do with me when he's a teenage boy. So I'm trying to hold on to the fact that, like, I get all of this extra time with just him, and I get to spend all of this extra time with Jackie, which is the girl who I'm a caregiver for. And we get to learn to appreciate the little things. And I'm just trying to hold on to the good things to push through this, because it's kind of scary not having any idea when this is going to be over.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And right now I'm more thankful than ever that I had started my, working out and really made it a routine and stuff like that, because that saves me tremendously from anxiety. And it's just scary, and it's a hard time. And my husband still goes out and works. He works for a medical supply company, so he is an essential worker. He's thankfully not around patients, but that's scary because he's going out at it and then coming home, and I'm like, you don't get hugs anymore, you get shots of Lysol.
Yeah.
Because it's just a lot. And to be nervous about going to the grocery store, it's just weird, and I don't know how to explain it, but it's hard, but I'm trying to hold on to the good.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've gone off on a tangent again. I'm really good at that. So I'm sorry.
I totally get it. Look, I think that, what we're going through right now is kind of unprecedented. It's rocky waters. It's challenging, but if we can try to find the good in something, if we can try to find a positive in each day, I think that we're going to get through this damn thing. I think that as our country, our world, we're going to get through all this. It's just going to take a lot of time. It's going to be very difficult. It's a lot like our own mental and physical wellness journeys that we get on, where we're trying to fix ourselves. But we will get through this.
The world's trying to fix itself right now.
Yes.
I think. And one of the things that I tried to look at positive from all of this too is that for once the world is relying on the people that we so took for granted, like our fast food workers and our grocery store clerks, and all of these people that are stocking our shelves. Like, I cannot imagine being in one of those positions. And of course, our healthcare workers, that goes without saying, but we are learning to appreciate the people that we took for granted before,
Oh yeah. 100%. I mean, we got to appreciate these people at all times, not just now.
Yes.
But at all times. They're not just some, retail jabronis. They're out there doing the real stuff now. I mean, they're keeping us going. So we gotta respect these people.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we've really said it all here. I mean, this has been a lot of fun.
It has been fun. Thank you so much for letting me chat your ear off. I went off on some some real tangents, and I was suddenly like, okay, shut up. That has nothing to do with what he was asking you.
No, this is the podcast game. It's good to talk. If you're talking, that's good business. Was this your first one, or?
Yes, this is the first one I've ever been on.
Wow. All right. Now I'm honored.
I'm honored. I'm honored. I think you're a great guy and you're doing great stuff. So I'm honored. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. And I know that the way we got connected is Instagram. And I know that that's a way that most people here find this podcast. So they're going to be wanting to find you. So in closing, tell people where they can find you on the gram. Is that what the kids call it these days? The gram? I want to make sure I'm saying that right.
I think so. I'm at It Is Kayla Nicole. It's ITISKAYLANICOLE.
Oh, you know what? I was just trying to type you up, and I realized what I did wrong. I was putting it's Kayla Nicole. It's actually It Is. And that's how they get on you. And I just realized that I wasn't even following. I'm so bad with Instagram. I am absolutely terrible. But I am now following. I am a fan of yours, and I appreciate you coming on here and hanging out. And you know what, as you said, talking my ear off. I love that. And that's what we do here on the podcast. We talk.
Awesome. Well, I feel a little bit better then.
Well, we'll have to, you know what that means? It just means that we're going to have to come back and do it again at some point.
Yes, I would love that. Perfect.
Well, Kayla, I appreciate the conversation. And, I always tell this to everybody, but if there's anything I can ever do for you, you know how to get a hold of me. You have my number now. So, whatever you need, let me know. But I do appreciate the conversation, and I had a great time.
I had a great time too. And anything you ever need, always reach out to me as well. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
I wonder how many times we're going to say I appreciate that. Let's go for one more. I really appreciate that.
I really appreciate that. And with that, we'll wrap up the podcast. It is Kayla Nicole. Go and get her on Instagram. Go follow her. Send her a DM. Tell her that you heard this podcast and she rocked your world, because she's just amazing. Coming on here, dropping fire. And thank you so much. I appreciate the time.
I appreciate your time too. Thank you so much. I hope you have an awesome night.
You too. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye. What a podcast. What a podcast. Kayla freaking killed it. Do me a favor. Click on the show notes. Click in the link. Go to her Instagram. Jump in her DMs and tell her how much she's freaking killed it in life. Ladies and gentlemen, go make yourself a new friend. I know I just did. Want to thank you guys so much for supporting the show, checking out the show, sharing the show, all those things that you do. Thank you. And I think we'll do this again next week. What do you guys think? Sound good? Yeah, it works for me. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Gary Cantrell podcast. We'll talk soon. See ya.